Good evening, everybody. Hello. Good evening, all. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Can everyone hear me? Hello.
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
So we begin the program very soon. As I said some time ago, as I just messaged you, will be you will be presenting your presentations as this order: Aishwarya Babu, followed by Roshni Matthew, Nilofer Shafi, Sharat US, Eunice, Anjana P. Sabu, Princey Daniel, Sri Parvati J, Sri Lakshmi. Okay, so this is the order. I think some of the paper presenters are absent, and now that they are absent, we'll be immediately moving forward to the next uh, student who is presenting. We have more people joining. Anyway, we commence the program right now. Welcome to the Dan Thottakkara National Seminar 2022, organized by the Department of English and Research Center, Sacred Heart College, Thevara, of remembering and forgetting memory studies now. The national seminar analyzes different perspectives in memory studies, such as the future of memory, food and memory in Asian American literature, memory of the other in Malayalam Gulf migrant memories, memories of caste and labor, etc. I thank and congratulate the principal, the head of the department and the faculty of Sacred Heart College, Thevara, especially the Department of English, and I extend a very warm welcome to all the participants who are already here right now there for their paper presentation. And now we have very soon we start the paper presentation. I am just welcoming Aishwarya Babu to present her paper now, and the topic of the presentation of Aishwarya is memory gaps and trauma, drawing parallels between Sylvia Fraser's My Father's House and crime thriller Sushal, The Vortex. Okay, now let us have an understanding of the structure of the program. Initially, we'll be having the paper presentation, and after that, we will, when everybody has completed the presentation, we will have a general discussion and conclusion. Okay, so I welcome Aishwarya Babu to present her paper. So I am requesting each of the paper presenters to turn on the camera and just be visible for some time, at least 3 4 minutes. You can just turn on the camera, and after that, of course, if you have some data problem like some connectivity issue and all, you can just turn off your camera. But now that we are very few, less than 10 here in this program, okay, it doesn't matter, the speed doesn't suffer much if at all you just keep your cameras turned on. So it is left to you. I respect your freedom, and maybe for 3 4 minutes you can turn on the camera. So welcome Aishwarya Babu, you can present your paper right now. By the way, I am Captain Binoy Varakil, assistant professor here in St. Joseph College, Devgiri, Kozhikode. Okay, not wasting much time, welcome to Aishwarya Babu.
Thank you, sir. I'm Aishwarya. I hope I'm audible to everyone.
You are
And
audible, you are audible, Aishwarya.
okay, sir. So, is it okay if I turn off my camera once I start sharing my screen? Will it
Definitely,
be a
definitely.
okay? So, I'm a PhD scholar from St. Xavier's College for Women, Alva, and my paper is titled Memory Gaps and Trauma, Drawing Parallels Between Sylvia Fraser's My Father's House and crime thriller Zujal, The Vortex. So, I will be sharing the screen now. So, I'll be turning off my camera. Just let me know if you can see the screen. Okay? Thank you.
Your
Is it
screen is
visible?
visible, Aishwarya, proceed.
Okay. So, first let me take you to the concept of traumatic amnesia or dissociative amnesia. I hope I am visible. Hello?
The
Yes.
introductory screen is visible, Aishwarya. Introductory screen is visible. If you have changed the slide, the second slide is not visible. Anyway, the first slide is visible right now. Now the second one is visible to me. Other participants can also just respond.
Is it visible?
Roshni, is it visible over there? Anjana, Roshni,
You
please.
can just give me a thumbs up if you
Yes,
can
it's
see it.
visible.
Yes. Okay,
It's
thank you. Thank you. So, the concept of traumatic amnesia or dissociative amnesia. This happens when you suffer a long term or very severe traumatic experience and you need to block it out. So, there is a gap, a void coming, and you want to dissociate yourself from that severe incident. And that's when dissociative amnesia happens. So, according to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, dissociative amnesia is an inability in a non-medical condition that is too extensive to be explained by normal forgetfulness. So this is like when there is a trauma inducing incident that is happening. For example, an abuse, sexual abuse is happening, you need to get over it, or you need to have a coping mechanism. So your mind builds a barricade over this incident so that you can dissociate from that and you no longer have any access to that particular memory. And that is what dissociative amnesia is. So, in simple words, it is a condition in which a person cannot recollect important information about their past. And this can be any accidents or abuses, disasters, so and so. But you have to be very careful because this amnesia is totally different from the medically, that brain injury causing amnesia. Here, it is a psychological response that our mind is building. So that both are different. So this is attributed by induced by a very overwhelming stress which may be caused by events such as war, abuse, accidents, or disasters. So this is like a response that your mind is giving out. You need to block that memory out so that you can thrive on. You just have to carry on with your day-to-day activities. So your mind builds a shield so you no longer have any access to that particular instance. So this is what traumatic amnesia is all about. So basically, you can divide this dissociative amnesia into three categories. The first one is localized amnesia, second one is generalized amnesia, and third one is fugue. So what do you mean by localized amnesia? This happens when memory loss affects a specific area of knowledge or parts, like an incident is blocked out. You no longer remember anything about that particular, only about that particular incident or that trauma inducing atmosphere or something like that. So that is what localized amnesia is. It's not long term like the amnesia that is caused by brain injury and all. It's short term, but it need not come back immediately. So second case is generalized amnesia. Here, the memory loss affects a major part of a person's life. For example, a person might forget their own names, their whereabouts, their job, their relatives, and this is actually a kind of extensive one, and that is not very common also in the case of dissociative amnesia. And the last case is fugue. This is actually an extension of the second category, that is generalized amnesia. The person suffering from this actually assumes a new identity along with having generalized amnesia. For example, we have come across instances where a person is missing and is found later on and have no clue about uh, their whereabouts. They are no longer have any idea about their past life. That is fugue. So my paper is concerning with the first category of dissociative amnesia, that is localized amnesia. So for the deliberation of the same, I have chosen a non-fictional account, that is My Father's House, a memoir of incest and of healing by Canadian writer Sylvia Fraser. This was published in 1987. This is actually an original testimony which have a very fragmented narrative structure. There is bits and pieces of memories coming and going, and so many things are happening. It does not follow any particular linear pattern. And the next one is, I think some of you might be knowing this. This is actually a recently released Amazon Prime Video crime series created by Pushkar and Gayatri, that is Sural, The Vortex. So, now let us find the similarities, or let us draw some parallels between these two works, because these are like very apart from each other. One is an original testimony, other one is a fictional account, that too that happens in a cinematic world. So, what are the similarities between both these works? So, the prime most important thing that connects these two is a concept that they are dealing with, and they deals with the concept of incest. So, in Sylvia Fraser's My Father's House, uh, she is subjected to sexual abuse right from the age of 7, and her father is her abuser. And this father figures is omnipresent throughout, I think, till he dies. He is completely there, even though she hates him for that. So here her father is her abuser. In case of Sural, the protagonist's name is Nandini, and her paternal uncle abuses her. So the first similarity between both these accounts are the topic or theme they are concerning with. And the next one is the memory gap. In Fraser's case, I said that she was abused right from the age of 7, and it went on to, I think, early 20s of her life. But uh, this memory of abuse or trauma or pain, nothing was visible in her life. She could not recollect, she could not remember, she could not regain anything related to this for 40 years. She was completely in a different universe, maybe you can say that. And in the case of Nandini, this gap was over 10 years. It's not correctly mentioned how many years, but it is well over 10 years. And the symptoms. This memory gaps, even though the memories are not erased in dissociative amnesia, it's still there, but it is just buried under this all other day-to-day activities, so that just you can go on with your life, but it will slowly start influencing your behavior. So both these protagonists, both Nandini and Sylvia Fraser, suffer from convulsions. These are non-epileptic seizures, but they resemble this epileptic episodes, but they do not have any physiological symptoms to the normal epilepsy. And what is sad here is that, according to studies these days, psychologists says that these non-epileptic seizures are actually one of the indicators for child sexual abuse. But both their family members, in case of Fraser and case of Nandini, they were unaware of it, or I should say that they turned a blind eye towards it. For Fraser's case, she says that at first they started giving little attention, and slowly it also faded away, and they started considering it as a tantrums or fits to get something, or to be mischievous or something like that. It started gaining no importance to them. And in case of Nandini, this series is actually very much rooted in religion and the cultural space in which it is set, that is Sambalur in Tamil Nadu. So there they believe that when Nandini gets this non-epileptic seizures, the doctors could not find any answers why this was being caused, and she could not give an answer why this was happening. Then the people around her, a family, the near and dear ones, started saying that it is a deity possessing over her body. I think this deity possessing over, it's very well common to all of us. We might have heard in numerous news or movies or something like that. So they kind of brush this fact that she's having a problem, but they are not addressing it directly, but just saying that it is a religious possession. The deity is possessing Nandini's body. So they just brushed it apart. So it's very sad to see that their family, especially their mom and dad, could not identify the reason behind these convulsions. And they have these changes in their behavior also. Fraser even though it started from the seventh age of 7, when she entered into this teenage years, she went on to this epitome of sexual fantasy or attention. She craved for the attention of the opposite sex. This is, in a way, Fraser was trying to assert her identity, but she did not know why. Even there are instances she is saying in the book that she is disgusted with herself for behaving like that, that she is exerting her position as a sexual symbol, where others are gaping, others are gazing, others are um, they are very devotional towards her. So she is actually quite disgusted with that, but she could not find answers for why she was behaving. And plus, she also started hating her father, but she didn't know the reason, because she actually split her personality. This is another concern of psychology, but she actually split her personality into two, and the other personality which she projected out endured all the abuses that her father inflicted upon her. So that person suffered, and the normal Fraser who went to school, who carried on with the day-to-day activities, did not know what was happening. She was not aware of it. And they started, both Nandini and Fraser became very rebellious. And in case of Nandini, she left the hometown completely, abandoning her parents, her sister, and she only comes back when her sister Nila goes missing and later found dead. And the last or very important similarity between these two works is the way in which both these characters realize that they are subjected to a very vindictive experience of incest. They come in case of Fraser, she come to realize that she was subjected to this when her friend's daughter, she came to know about her friend's daughter being molested by her husband. So that sexual abuse encounter triggered Fraser's memory, that her memory started to come back in bits and pieces. It was very foggy. She started taking therapy lessons, and then only she could place it like a jigsaw puzzle. Everything fit into places. She could answer very well why she behaved like this, why she was very rebellious, why she did not like these things, that things, all those things. And in case of Nandini, she came to realize that when after her dead sister's body was went for autopsy, and the results came that she was sexually abused for a very long time. That's the triggering point for Nandini to realize that her condition, her convulsions happened because she endured the same. That's why she couldn't let go of things. She didn't like anybody touching her, even her father. That's why she maintained a distance from all of this. So that is that. So another thing is that both this Fraser and Nandini suffered from betrayal trauma. This was actually a concept introduced by psychologist Jennifer Freud in 1991. So it is like the trauma that is induced when the trust is broken by a person you consider very close to your heart. So she describes it as a specific trauma that happens in key social relationships, where the betrayed person needs to maintain a relationship with the betrayer for support or for protection. So they cannot detach from the abuser. They cannot go away. They cannot escape from the fact that they are being abused. They cannot just say it out and then go away, because they are. In case of Fraser, her father is a primary breadwinner, caregiver for her whole family. And Fraser's equation with her dad is also very questionable, because he is very omnipresent throughout her life. For everything she does, she needs validation from her father. So she couldn't detach herself from her father for doing this to her. Even when she realized it was just a confused, chaotic space for her. She couldn't consider or identify what is the sort of feeling that she felt for her father afterwards. So the children who experience betrayal end up dissociating or detaching from reality to avoid memories of the abuse. This is actually these memory gaps that and the associated dissociative amnesia is like an adaptive response to childhood abuse. They are like the mind itself is taking the role of the savior and protecting you from that instead that you don't want to look back upon. So it's like a barrier that helps us to survive. So both these characters, Fraser and Nandini, they just want to survive and they are fighting for their survival and their mind comes for help. That is the other person. You can consider it as a personality they are projecting out who comes and block all these pain, guilt, repressed emotions, anger, fear, all those things. So the amnesia enables the child to maintain an attachment with a figure vital to survival, development, and thriving. For Fraser, she could not go from there till she earned a job, till she got married. And Nandini, she just escaped from all this. She just turned a blind eye towards everyone till the last moment. So, why this amnesia helps? It's actually a coping mechanism. It's not a what you say something that is dangerous or detrimental. It's actually a very uh, it's like a soothing coping mechanism that helps us to thrive more, if even from all those pain and things which you cannot say, which you cannot communicate, your mind itself gives you a itself lends you a hand to come out of it. But it will influence your behavior here and there which you may not be aware of. So it helps to maintain attachment with the parent or the abuser or caregiver or protector. Like even though he abused her, she could not just, a 7-year-old child could not just say that I do not need you, I will say this out and just go from there. But for that, this dissociative amnesia helps her and to promote survival. They want to survive in this world. This is not something they called upon to themselves. So they just want to survive in this world. So, and in certain cases, coming to know of this fact they are subjected to sexual abuse actually is detrimental. Some of them are exhibit suicidal tendencies. Even Nandini tried to commit suicide, but she did not know what was the reason that made her to attempt that. But she came to realize only at the end. And this amnesia helps to compartmentalize the traumatic experience from their conscious awareness. Like I said earlier, Fraser created a split personality who suffered everything. So, and the other person need not care. They just had a normal life. They had a mom and dad, sister. She went to school. And for Nandini's case, she also just, even though her episodes were more frequent than Fraser, she just, she herself says in the series that once she went away from the town or the person abused her, her seizures stopped. And when she came back, it started coming back. So there's a memory or that the subconscious awareness that you are near that person or you're near in that place where it happened triggered all these episodes. So I want to say that this is like incest is a very traumatic incident which you cannot speak out loud. There are very like numerous social and personal hindrances which prohibit you from saying it out, acknowledging it that it happened. So this memory gaps is actually a boon, I would say, that it helps them to cope. They are not committing suicide, they are not putting an end to their life, but they are coping. But even though it is very disadvantage in the sense that it influences our behavior. So that is what I have to present before you. Thank you. Hope I was clear.
Okay, Aishwarya Babu, it was in fact a very good presentation. You have just presented your argument, your ideas very well. Okay, the way sexual family abuse just devastate individuality, personality, and of course memory gap just helps us to have a kind of therapeutic impact, rather just overcome the difficulty. Very good paper. Congratulations to you, Aishwarya. Okay, we'll
Thank you,
have
sir.
a detailed discussion at the end of the presentation of all the other participants. Now we will just listen to Roshni Matthew. Roshni is presenting a paper on culture and memory in the film പത്തൊമ്പതാം നൂറ്റാണ്ട്. Roshni, welcome. All the best. Roshni, you are not audible. Roshni, please turn on your mic. Your camera is on, your mic is off, Roshni.
Okay, sir.
You are
Am
audible
I
now. You are
am I
audible.
audible?
Yeah, you
Okay,
are
thank
audible
you.
right now. Do you have a slideshow?
Excuse me, I
Do you
couldn't
have a
hear.
presentation like PPT presentation,
No,
slideshow?
no,
No.
no. I am just presenting my paper.
All right.
Uh,
Please start your presentation. You are audible right now.
okay. I'm Roshni Matthew, second MA English Literature student at Alfonso College, Pala, and I'm here to present a paper searching on the topic culture and memory in the film പത്തൊമ്പതാം നൂറ്റാണ്ട്. I have recently watched this film and it's still running in the theaters. Cultural memory in cinema is a treasure trove of evidences and analysis that is a vital resource for anyone interested in changing the world. And coming to the film പത്തൊമ്പതാം നൂറ്റാണ്ട്, it is directed by Vinayan and have created a cultural masterpiece um, and has created a cultural masterpiece that takes the audience back to the 19th century era, where the princely states of Travancore witnessed the Reformation movement, which resulted in extensive socio-cultural changes in the society. Um, and uh, so, when setting up a film like പത്തൊമ്പതാം നൂറ്റാണ്ട്, it is also setting up of a whole culture and its memory. The past cultural context, traditions, and characters are all usually shown in regular cultural movies. There are many movies that include culture as its base, and we can also see stories that are based through the cultural context as well. But apart from the other movies, several social and cultural taboos which were escaped from the minds of the people or were erased from the mind of the people is featured in this film. The major portrayal of the social system which existed in the past, like the Savarna system or Aitam, and also the tax, which was called Mulakaram at the time, is also depicted or is memorized through the film. This film is also not only the cultural depiction of a prominent figure of the society, like other cultural movies, but also the film that provides the knowledge on revolutionary phases that the lower caste people had to face. And by memorizing this aspects, one could relate how the lower society survived from the cruel taboos that haunted them during the past. The film's protagonist is Aratapuzha Velayitha Panikar, and he's remembered as a person who has made history by himself. Then several revolutionary incidents are shown in the film, including the caste discrimination in the Shiva temple for Iravas, fights and struggles of backward communities like the lower caste people like Iravas, then the nose ring revolt, Kadagali of the backward community, etc. These are included in this film. So these cultural aspects are those which are made for the viewers to remember and also to memorize the past culture and its struggle. The prominent figures who got missing from the history is being recognized and is also respected through this memorable cultural film. Then the cultural representation of the Savarna system and its memory throws light on the darkest episodes of one of the biggest social evils that existed in the society. The major historical figure named Nangeli, she was the one who fought against the taxation called the Mulakaram, and is said to have chopped off her breast. And she was underrepresented or was not being a part in the cultural memory, but she is also being glorified in this film. Then the main victims of this tax were the women from the lower caste like Shudra caste. as the lowest caste in India. They were prohibited from covering their own breast if they did never practice the mulakaram or the breast tax. The women of Shudra caste uh, were forced to be bare chested, and the upper class women were not actually uh, under these restrictions. So the discrimination during the 19th century is portrayed in this film as a cultural memory. Then another one figure, Kayamkulam Kochunni. He is also another prominent figure who can be seen in the film. Then Nishakaram and Talakaram. They were the other inhuman taxes like this Mulakaram that were that existed at that time, the 19th century. These were imposed on the people belonging to the so-called lower caste society, like the Shudra caste. Uh, Driven by the greed, the feudal lords and the royalty in Travancore surrendered the kingdom to the British at that time. However, Velayatha Panikkar emerged as the savior of women of the Irava caste who had no rights to cover their breast and the tenants who were starving. These images in this film shows the need to remember those great people who fought for the in, fought for fought against this injustice existed in the 19th century, and also uh, depicts the natural view of cultural elements. So culture and memory both in contrast is depicted in this film, which makes a visual image of the 19th century Kerala itself. So that's what I have to present.
Okay, thank you very much, Roshni Matthew. Your presentation is very good. Congratulations, right? You have really shown us a very vivid picture of 19th century Kerala with all the evil practices, the inhuman cultural practices, right? And of course, listening to some of the evil practices that just devastated our God's own country, I felt rather sad, and I'm sure all the listeners should have the same feeling. Anyway, congratulations, Roshni. We'll have a discussion later. Now we will
Thank you.
listen to the third paper presentation, and that is by Nilofer Shafi. I welcome Nilofer Shafi to present her paper, which is titled Memory Models in Baumgarten's Bombay and Effects on Lives of Those Engaged, as discussed by Anita Desai. Nilofer, welcome to the national seminar. You can just present your paper right now. Hello.
Hello.
Nilofer, you are audible. You are audible. Do you have a slideshow?
Yeah.
Can you turn on your camera for some time? If you don't mind, you can just turn it on for some time, right?
Yeah. For one second, I can. Okay. I hope I'm visible.
You are visible. You are very much visible, and you are audible.
Okay.
Please start your presentation. Welcome.
Okay.
Thank you. Slide is
Uh,
visible. Slide is visible, Nilofer. It's visible. You can start.
okay. Okay. Let me introduce myself a little bit. Sir has already given my introduction, but to be very brief, my name is Nilofer Shakri. I'm a PhD scholar. Currently, I'm doing my PhD in English Literature from Sharda University. And the title of my paper is Memory Models in Baumgartner, Bombay, and Effects on the Lives of Those Engaged, as discussed by Anita Desai. So let me give a very brief introduction about my title. It's actually based on memory. Memory, as we all know, is the mental capacity for encoding new information, keeping it in storage, and retrieving all bits of material as necessary. Essentially, it is keeping in mind anything long enough to use it as a guide for what you do next. Memory, as we can say, it's the storehouse of information regarding our past, and in our present, we recall that information or recollect the events that has occurred in our past. Many authors have explored the theme of memory in their works. That can be a poetry, novel, short stories, tales, etc. This analysis seeks to decipher the memory model, namely the multi-directional memory model in Bumgartner, Bombay, a novel by Anita Desai. In this novel, Anita Desai has taken a model of memory that is called the multi-directional memory model, which I will try to explain in my next slides what actually is this multi-directional memory model. To describe what occurs when competing narratives of severe violence are brought into the public realm, the term multidirectional memory was developed. For the first time, the authors of multidirectional memory combined the fields of Holocaust studies with post-colonial studies. Actually, this multidirectional memory model is linked with the Holocaust, the genocide that was done to Jews in Germany. It's actually very much related to that. And the novel which I have taken for this particular study is also linked with that genocide that has happened to German Jews during the Second World War. Anita Desai, an Indian author, was born in Old Delhi in 1937 to a German mother and an Indian father. She spent her childhood in New Delhi, where she spoke German and Hindi at home and English at school. Actually, this novel is very much inspired by Anita Desai's own life because, as it's clearly written, that she has a German mother and a Indian father. So she has that. Maybe she might have faced that. Had that experience of that genocide that has happened in Germany. Most of her works deals with the inner struggle of contemporary Indian characters and vividly depict the socio-cultural change that affected their country in the second half of the 20th century. And they are characterized by finely crafted language, poetic imagery, a strong sense of place, and complex interwoven characters. Actually, Anita Desai has done a mastery over the uh, in the narration of the characters, in portrayal of the characters, to show their inner traumas, to show their phases of traumas, what the characters face during their entire lives. She combines a focus on the person with the examination of historically significant events, as in her treatment of German anti Semitism, the decline of Indian traditions, and Western stereotyped conceptions of the East. Uh, Actually, in this seminar for this particular paper, there are actually four objectives that I want to achieve from this study. The first one is to examine and to understand Anita Desai's novel, that is Bumgartner, Bombay, to investigate the concept of memory and its significance in the selected literary work. What is actually memory, and what is the uh, its concept of memory and its impact on the individual's lives. That is my objective. To study and comprehend the idea of multi-directional memory in the undertaken literary work, to investigate in the novel how recollections of the Holocaust have altered the lives of those who experienced it. These are my objectives. Next, I will give you the very brief discussion about this novel, what this novel is actually having in it. Actually, there is a central character in this novel whose name is Hugo Bumgartner. He is the protagonist of Bumgartner Bombay, which is depicted as having several identities, including those of German, Jew, and Indian. Basically, he was born in Germany, then he went to Calcutta, and finally he went to Bombay. So he's kind of having the mixed identities, belonging to nowhere, feeling alienated from everywhere. There are chapters that explain the entire tale of the protagonist's life from his upbringing in Germany to his final days in Bombay, and flashbacks that record the protagonist's wanderings on his last day of life. In addition, Anita Desai has used a multi-directional memory model, which I have already said that in this particular novel she has used the multi-directional memory model. Bumgartner Bombay demonstrates how personal and communal Holocaust memories may be transposed to other traumatic conflicts such as the British confinement camps and the partition of India. In terms of narrative voice, devices like interior monologues, free indirect style, and free association of ideas allow the narrator to enter the mind of the protagonist and represent his train of thought. As I have early said that Anita Desai was master to use various narrative devices to create a sense of emotions towards the main characters or the involved characters in her novels. She used various narrative techniques for that arousal of emotions, like I said, free indirect style, free association of ideas, interior monologues, and etc. As a result of these literary devices, Hugo becomes the novel's central point of focus and the reader's primary point of view into the novel's disturbing world. However, this viewpoint may be skewed because Hugo is not fully aware of the historical events that surround him and because he never acquires a voice of his own, remaining a passive object in history and in his own life. The next slide will be of the theoretical framework. Many thinkers have contributed to the discussion of memory with their theories. By the confluence of individual and collective traumatic memories of various nations at different eras, Michael Rothberg defines multidirectional memory. He actually gives the definition what is in his book. He defines what actually is multidirectional memory, and this idea of multidirectional memory was then used by Anita Desai in her novel Bumgartner Bombay. Actually, multidirectional memory is a collective traumatic memories that occurs in an individual. In 2009, Rothberg outlined a multi-directional model of memory that established a connection between Holocaust remembrance and imperialism. As early said that it was done in Germany with Jews. That is the basis of this novel, that what happens with the Jews at that time. The central character Hugo is actually a German who has faced several emotional setbacks because of his Jewish and German identity and because he has faced that genocide in Germany. The fact that this novel facing the Holocaust was written by an Indian author with German roots and that she did it from a rather new perspective transformed this novel into a controversial art of fiction. This was said by Axel Schalter of Anita Desai's work. The conclusion to this presentation will be to properly grasp the topics at hand. A critical analysis of Anita Desai's novel Bumgartner Bombay is conducted. All of the work's claims about the memories, relevance, and the characters' responses to them are well supported and well analyzed. The author employs a multi-directional memory model and considers the effects of this model on the characters, especially on the main character, that is the Hugo Bumgartner. The narrative heavily draws from the Holocaust recollections and the effect they had on the character. With this, I end my presentation. Hope I was able to um, give my best.
Yeah, indeed, Nilofer, you have just done a good job, and the presentation is, of course, excellent. And congratulations, Nilofer. You have spoken very well about multi-directional memory, and of course, your selections, right? The very text you have chosen help the listeners understand how memory just haunts the very people who have experienced different traumatic experiences, right? So, congratulations, Nilofer
Thank you.
Shafi. Good. Say, we have a lot of works on the very Holocaust and the very persecution of the Jews, and of course, you have combined Anita Dashai, her text as well, and of course, the very interior monologue, the narrative style of Dashai. Okay, good, good. We have, of course, as you suggested, maybe if time permits, of course, we can just go for maybe a day's discussion on this particular topic, right? Congratulations, Nilofer.
Thank
In
you. Thank
fact,
you. So
we are right now in the Dan Thottakkara National Seminar 2022, organized by the Department of English and Research of Sacred Heart College, Thevara. So I express my congratulations and gratefulness to the head of the department, Dr. Rajesh James, and the principal and the faculty of the Department of English of Sacred Heart College. It's in fact a very good thing that we have the national seminar here. And now we have the next paper presentation from Sharath, and Sharath is presenting a paper on memory and identity formation in visually challenged, and I extend a warm welcome to Sharath. Sharath, how are you?
Hello, hello.
How are you,
Am I
Sharath?
audible?
You are audible, Sharath. You are
Uh,
audible. You are visible. Very much visible.
Fine, sir.
Yeah. You can present your paper, Sharath. Welcome.
Good evening. I am Capt, research scholar from Kerala University. First of all, I express my gratitude to Sacred College to give this opportunity to present the paper. The paper entitled Memory and Identity Formation in Visually Challenged is an analysis of the role of memory as the storehouse of experiences in the lives of persons with blindness for establishing differently abled identity. The study also explores acquired or accidental blindness and congenital blindness in the context of memory. Acquired or accidental blindness is the condition in which a sighted person turns into blindness during the course of life, whereas congenital blindness refers to the blindness by birth. Hence, the condition of congenital blindness is entirely different from that of acquired or accidental uh, blindness. Memory model proposed by Richard C. Atkinson and Richard M. Schifrin and Piaget's theory of cognition are used to provide theoretical background to the study. Persons with disability generally uses their previous experiences stored in the form of memory to reduce the lag created by the defective functioning of the organ or subsystem of the body. Memory acts as the refuge and storehouse of visual experiences in the victims of acquired or accidental blindness. This repository of visual memories provide platform for establishing their own identity and perspectives in the blinded condition. They recall, revise, and reconstruct the present experiences of sound, touch, smell, and taste on the basis of the past memories of vision. Incredible ability to retain Visual memories of the past help them to visualize things in the mind and to create mental maps. Memories of color, shape, and forms provide colorful inner vision with accurate shape. Their unique skill in using available sense organs and the visual memory at its maximum level helps to reduce the loss of eyesight. Thus, the available sense organs of the visually challenged person functions more effective than those of a sighted person. In persons with acquired or accidental blindness, auditory, olfactory, gustatory, and tactile signifiers are connected with the visual image in the memory in order to form perception. For instance, if a visually impaired person hears about gold coin, the sound of the gold coin is connected with the color of the gold and the shape of the gold in his uh, in his memory. Compared with visually challenged by birth, individuals with acquired blindness can easily understand different colors, light and dark, glittering, and the concept of beauty. In the perception of unfamiliar or new situations, objects, place, or person, individuals with acquired blindness cannot connect visual images in the memory with non-visual signifiers. John Martin Hull clearly describes it in his memo titled Touching the Rock and Experience of Blindness. During the first couple of years of his blindness, he divided the people who knew into two categories. There were those with faces and those without faces. The people he knew before his blindness have faces, but people he has met since he becoming blind do not have faces. The contrast of the two groups of people disturbed him. He faced difficulty to relate one set to the another set. Gradually, the proportion of the pupil without face began to increase. Another problem faced by John Martin Hull is that he cannot record the latest development of the pupil who daily visited. He cannot add the changes in the face and the body uh, due to the movement of the time in the storehouse of visual memory. John Martin Hull uses the metaphor of gallery to present collection of mental pictures in his memory. In his experience, the accuracy of pictures are decreasing due to the movement of the time. The memo, Hope Unseen, unfolds the role of memory and perception in Scotty Smiley's life after his losing vision. After reaching the top of the mountain, the visual images of rock, snow, height, etc. in his memory connect with present experiences of hearing, touch, and smell. Thus, thus he can perceive the surroundings of the mountain range and enjoy his success as a mountain climber. It can be observed that uh, Scotty Smiley's experience of success is a combination of sensing through non-ocular sensor at present and visual memory in the past. Following words of Scotty Smiley clearly explains the process of perception in him. I quote, I used my hands to feel the bars and the metal cables. As my hand touched the equipment, my brain processed the shape. Unquote. Here, tactile signifier is connected with the images of the gym instruments in the memory. Visual memory provides color and shape to these instruments. This combination of tactile sensing at present and visual experience in the past leads to the perception of Scotty Smiley. The connection between ocular and non-ocular sensors are unconscious and arbitrary. There is a natural desire of the conscious mind to connect the experiences acquired to other sense organ with the visual experience. The desire to know the color is absent in persons with blindness by birth. The curiosity to know the color in persons with acquired or accidental blindness emerges from their memory of visual perception. The mind of the persons with acquired or accidental blindness is the storehouse of visual memories. These memories evoke various feelings and emotions in their consciousness in the blinded state. It can be analyzed that past experience of visual perception in the memory provide platform for their night dreams. They appears as a sighted person and enjoys the colorful world in the dreams. The interesting point is that in real life situation, auditory and tactile experiences are major mode of perception, whereas in the dreams, visual images in the memory becomes the center and other sensations are marginalized. Thus, it can be analyzed that although past visual memory provide an imaginary vision in dreams, these memories are incapable to eliminate the tension and anxiety related to blindness in the unconscious mind. Hence, it is observed that dreams play a vital role to preserve past visual experiences in the memory in people with acquired or accidental blindness. But in the case of congenital blindness, there is no scope for visual memory. Memory is preserved. Memory is preserved in the forms of auditory, olfactory, gustatory, and tactile signifiers in the context of congenital blindness. As a result, in the case of blindness by birth, the person doesn't have concrete idea about light, darkness, color, shape of the thing which is not available to touch. He or she formulates abstract ideas about these things on the basis of their imagination. By birth onwards, they live in the same familiar environment and they are totally unaware of the visual world. In the situation of persons with congenital blindness, visual perception is absent in their memory, so tactile and auditory experiences take prominent role in their dreams. The space becomes the part of persons with visual disability through embodied memory and practices. In unfamiliar spaces, they have to spend more energy and attention for perception. Previous experiences, strength of mobility, and memories of visual perception, especially in persons with acquired blindness, help them to overcome the challenge. It can be summarized that long-term memory play a crucial role uh, in the perception and identity formation of persons with both acquired and congenital blindness. In the condition of acquired blindness, visual images occupies prominent position in the long-term memory, whereas in the situation of congenital blindness, auditory and tactile signifiers take vital role in the long-term memory. Thus, skillful use of memory helps persons with visual disability to create differently abled identity. Here, differently abled or different ability indicates the ability of disabled person to do the task in different way by utilizing available sense organs, uh, subsystem of the body, and the effective functioning of the memory. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharat. Thank you so much. Your paper is, of course, a very, very good paper, and it helps us understand the, uh, the very life of visually challenged people. Say, you have just emphatically asserted the fact that memory plays a very crucial role in the identity formation of visually challenged people, and of course, it's very true. We have seen maybe see the blind people or the visually challenged people, they know what is where, and of course their senses like maybe I remember an occasion I had I was with one of a visually challenged person who is in fact Unni Krishnan, right? I spent some time with Unni Krishnan many years ago, and we were together for some 3 4 months, and after 4 or 5 years I just happened to see him in a bus station, and I just went close to him and just shook hands with him, and very suddenly he responded, "Oh, you Binoy," right? And very soon he could recognize me. Sometimes we forget people after this pandemic because we don't see people, right? So Sharat, in your paper you have very scientifically presented how significant is memory in, of course, forming the identity of the rather the identity formation of the visually challenged people. And now let the other people who are, of course, rather okay, be rather kind and courteous to the visually challenged. This is what I have to tell you, because they often, the visually challenged people often have a lot of difficulty when they move around, when they walk, when they, of course, work, and they have. But let us be more courteous and caring and considerate to such people. I know a lot of people who are visually challenged, but they are really brilliant. Say, for example, I have professor friends like Akbar Chulil, Habib C. Chulil, They are great professors, teachers. Besides, of course, they are multi-talented, like great singers who can play instruments and all. Sharat, your paper was, of course, wonderful. Congratulations, Sharat.
Thank you. Thank you,
So
sir.
happy that you could be here. Okay, thank you. Now let us continue our paper presentation of the Dan Thottakkara National Seminar 2022, and the topic, as we know, is of remembering or forgetting memory studies. Now we have a paper presentation by Eunice. I think Eunice is absent. Is Eunice present? If Eunice is present, you can just give me a response. Eunice, you can turn on your mic and make. I think Eunice is absent. Now that Eunice is absent, Eunice was expected to. He should have presented a paper like conflict studies, but he's not here right now. So straight away we move to Anjana P. Sabu, and Anjana is presenting a paper titled Haunting Memories of Disappearing and Custodial Violence, analyzing first they erased our name, a Rohingya speaks, and Orachende Orma Kuripugal. Anjana P. Sabu, are you ready? Anjana, are you ready? Hello. Anjana, can you hear me, Anjana? Anjana, your mic is turned off. Turn on your mic, Anjana. Please turn on your mic.
Hello. Yes, sir. I'm
Yeah,
ready, sir.
yeah, you are visible now.
Uh,
You are audible
yes.
right now. Do you have a slideshow, Anjana?
Has turned on my mic. Yes.
Yeah, I'm asking if you have slideshow, PowerPoint presentation. Are you sharing slides?
No, sir. No, sir. No.
Okay, so welcome. You
No,
can
sir.
start your presentation, Anjana.
No, sir.
You can
No, sir.
start.
No.
You can
No,
start
sir.
presentation right now.
No, sir. No.
Anjana, start
Good
your
evening, all.
presentation.
I'm Anjana P. Sabu. Uh,
Start now. Start now.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Good evening, all. I'm Anjana P. Sabu. I'm a PhD research scholar. Yes, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
You are audible, very much audible, Anjana. Please continue.
Hello, everyone. I am Anjana P. Sabu. I'm a PhD research scholar in the Department of English, uh, Newman College, Thodupuzha. And my title of my research paper is Haunting Memories of Disappearing and Custodial Violence, analyzing first the erased our name, a Rohingya speaks, and Orachende Ormakuruppugal. The analysis is unprecedented in terms of decades of ethnic and religious discrimination. The literary depictions of Rohingya persecution dealt not only with brutality, abuse, displacement, and newly discovered hatred, but also with the traumatic effect it has on the individual's mind. Similarly, the internal emergency declared in India was also a government's tool to exterminate the opposing voices against the government, and the custodial tortures were beyond the comprehension of human mind, and it had long-term effects on its victims. The present study focuses on the autobiographies of Habibur Rahman and Professor T.V. Eacharavarya. The chosen text, Habibur Rahman's autobiography, First They Erased Our Name, a Rohingya Speaks, documents the Rohingya persecution, the ethnic cleansing movement that took place over the decades, and its effects on people and communities. Professor T.V. Eacharavarya's autobiography in Orachende Ormakurpugal, or The Memories of a Father, documents his relentless and lonely legal struggle for justice and truth behind the unaccounted disappearance of his son T. Rajan in police custody. By focusing on the psychological impact of persecution and custodial violence, the study attempts to underline the importance of remembering as an act of releasing traumatic memories and reclaiming history. The present paper expounds the concept of history and memory captured in autobiographies. Memory as a trope creates different perspectives of the identity of the characters and help of their experience of historical events. Uh, uh, Bertrand Newman, in his book The Literary Representation of Memory, explains that numerous memory and process of remembering have always been an important, indeed a dominant topic in literature. Memories are the only leading lamp to understanding surroundings. There is no, in the human doctrine, society plays a pivotal role because without society, there is no history. And a society in which history does not exist is like an individual who does not have memory. Memory is the only medium to recall the past by which the identity of a person comes into existence. Memory allows individual to study past experience and forecast the future and does not relate to the system and units, but it is an arrangement of system interaction like encoding and storing and makes memory accessible by the process of reposition. And coming to the autobiography, despite its inherent pervasiveness and slipperiness, autobiography has successfully established itself as a distinct literary genre today. Autobiographies has been looked upon as a powerful mode of self-realization, self-construction, self-expression, and self-transcendence. The psychological approach in literary criticism is the most controversial and the most fascinating and creative one. However, the psychological criticism in literature had to wait to take shape till the advent of theories of Freud in 20th century. The concept of memory plays an essential role in shaping the sense of identity, whether it is autobiographical or individual. Autobiographical memory is, on the one hand, deeply personal, subjective, and vivid construction of the past, a construction that reveals, creates, and communicates a personal identity. Then coming to the book of Habibur Rahman, the Rohingya crisis is indeed a landmark event in the current cultural history, not only in terms of the devices and degree of the horrors perpetrated by the genocidal state on its people, but also in terms of the attention it has received from academicians, creative writers, artists, and in various generic forms of media. A historical event can be best understood not only through the realistic accounts, but also through its literary representation. Literature has the power to portray a situation with such force of precision that it is brought alive in the minds of readers in its clearest form. Habibur Rahman is a Rohingya who was deported from Myanmar, describes the trauma he has faced trauma he has faced as a Rohingya in his own country. His autobiography, First They Erased Our Name, Rahman documents the gripping inside story of the incubation of a genocide. The work, being a victim's narrative, can be deeply dissected using the tools of memory studies and trauma theory. Similarly, the emergency of 1971 was one of the darkest periods in the history of modern India. It is called an emergency because the government invokes emergency provisions of the constitution. During this time, the citizens' rights are curtailed, civil liberties are suspended, and the powers of the executive and legislative branches of the government are expanded. The emergency became a byword for police brutality in Kerala. There were many people were arrested and put in prison during the emergency. In Kerala, too, over 8,000 people were arrested. The case of P. Rajan, an engineering student who was picked up by police for a crime in which it was easily verifiable he had no role and then tortured and killed, shows the depth of state brutality during a period when civil liberties were suspended and the media was censored. It was the long and lonely struggle of TV Ijara warrior, Rajan's father, that brought out the truth behind his son's disappearance after he was taken away by the police on March 1st, 1976. Warrior is a retired Hindi professor, writes in his book Memories of a Father, describing why he could not give up his struggle until the police admitted they had killed his son. Autobiographies offers a priceless opportunity to peep into the Lejwin in his book. Lejwin suggests that autobiography offers a priceless opportunity to peep into the self of the author and to glimpse at the society from his or her perspective. In fact, it is perhaps the only form of expression that requires a perfect identity between the author, the narrator, and the protagonist. In the Rohingya crisis, the Rohingya crisis has a history of hundreds of years. The Buddhism has played a significant role in Burmese history. Theravada Buddhism is highly popular in countries like Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Myanmar. Unlike the other strand of Buddhism, Theravada is highly criticized for its local Buddhist leadership acting with complete intolerance towards the other religious groups. They asperse extreme nationalism, intolerance towards other beliefs, and an ethnically pure polity. After the independence, also the political parties were also allied with the extreme nationalists to ensure popular opinion, and it made anti-Rohingya racism a norm in Myanmar. The anti-Muslim prejudice is inflamed to harmonize the majorities to win elections. The strategy was further led to a divided political society and which resulted in a genocide. Rahman dedicates this book to the Rohingya, and he acknowledges that this book is not only my story, it is a chronicle of a genocide. Similarly, Professor Warrior also dedicates his book to the victims of emergency. The target of violence and dehumanization forced Rohingyas to live silently in their homeland. In the childhood episodes, Rahman narrates how the concealing of Rohingya identity demanded a restrained childhood. He was even restricted from revealing his identity to his friends. In his book, he narrates that the word Rohingya is forbidden. We only use it among ourselves and in the hut. It is our secret identity. Similarly, the child the child undergoes agony in hiding his true self and identity. His grandmother often reminds him that Rohingya children must prepare themselves for the worst. The isolation, so this created an isolated Habib as a child, and his family had to face an isolation from society, and it amplified his trauma. Something have a peaceful or a nostalgic childhood memory, Habib had to experience a traumatic childhood memory. Isolation was one of the reasons to amplify his fear and trauma. The childhood instances delineate the trauma Habibur Rahman faced as an other within his peer groups. He was marked as an other within his peer groups, and the otherness forced him to make friends with the children from minority communities alone. And when the child witnesses violent and atrocious measures through which their voice is suppressed, the trauma is triggered, and the trauma is triggered is unfathomable. While in the Nevin administration, all the minorities who participated in a protest, and Habib was also hoping for freedom, but the uprising was suppressed by the soldiers, and as a child, Habib witnessed an exact moment of trauma for the first time in his life, and it had a deep impact on his the memory of his first trauma has a deep impact on his psyche or in his personality throughout his life. And he even marks that the soldiers are intruded into a space which is perceived by the child as his little world. Then Kai Erikson in his article Notes on Trauma and Community, it was written in Kathy Carroll's anthology Trauma Explanations in Memory, explains trauma as a blow to the tissues of mind and injures an individual or upsets him or her. He talks of an external force that breaks in, smashes the frontiers of the mind and assaults the individual. Then the symptoms of trauma include daydreams, flashbacks, hallucinations, and nightmares in which the individual continuously recalls the horror. All these symptoms can be traced in both Habib Rahman's book and Isrovari's autobiography. Then Kai Erikson also claims that the impact of trauma depends on how an individual's body and mind react to a traumatic situation. And for Icharavadi, the disappearance of his son was capable enough to draw the Rajan's mystery regarding his disappearance from police custody makes his entire family traumatic. In the essay, Capturing the Past, written by Kathy Carroll, she gives an instance that on her German lover's death, a French woman in the movie, Kathy elaborates the survivor, a French woman in the movie Hiroshima Mon Amour. She is unable to grasp the actual moment of her German lover's death. In this missing moment lies her trauma. Similarly, the reason Ichiro Warrior also misses the exact moment of his son's missing, and it deepens his trauma. The inability to grasp the actual moment deepens the trauma. The reason for her absence is then the police arrest during the emergency period. The police arrests were usual, and often there were custodial mothers too. Warrior says that some may ask that what makes Rajan's case so different. It is an obvious question, but among all those arrests, the parents got an access to know the whereabouts of the arrested people. But in my son's case, it was not the situation. The police has arrested our beloved son, and we were deprived of any further news regarding him. Only those who have endured such a situation can realize our pain. Then the similar situation is also faced by Habibur Rahman as a child. He faced a crucial instance of trauma when he was left by his mom. But what intensifies his trauma is the mystery behind his mom's disappearance. Rahman writes that the reason for her absence is a mystery that will plague me my entire life. It is and always will be a taboo subject. Was she imprisoned, tortured, abused? Like so many Rohingya women, she will never talk about it. The disappearance of the loved ones makes a child traumatic. Warrior also recounts that who will be more saddened, a father who lost a son or a son who lost a father. In both these two autobiographies, we come across a father who lost his son and also a child who lost his father. The father figure in Rahman's autobiography also faces a situation where he becomes helpless to protect his family, and his helplessness became the core to his experience of trauma. And as a victim of communal trauma, the father also feels a sense of exploitation, defenselessness, and helplessness. His faith in himself, the government, the community are shattered. And he also tormented on his inability to protect his wife. And young Habib realizes the tortures. Habib's father also had to go through custodial violence, and the young Habib does not get a verbal explanation from his father regarding his custodial violence, but he was realized what his father had to suffer in custody through his shattered body and psyche. Then trauma, it encapsulates in an injury to both body and mind. While a body injury can be healed, the traumatic memory cannot be healed. It is very difficult to heal the mind because its wounding is much more complex, and it is not experienced in real time, which makes it hard to register. Unaware of the custodial tortures his son had to endure, he get to know about the trials took place in camp through the words of the young men who were his inmates in the camp. Since they were also the victims of custodial violence, they were also shivering while recounting their Kakem days. Vaidya writes that, "My memories are faded, but I can't forget the past. Life has trained me to get deep down to the human lives. The inmates of Rajan, Koro, Benhar, and Chatamangalam Rajan, told me about the Kakem camp. When they described the cold-blooded torments, they shivered as they were trying to forget these days." The same experience is as the same Rajan's father experiences the same pain. He misses the exact moment of his son's arrest. His helplessness triggers his trauma. And the past memories of Rajan also started to haunt him. He remembers that Rajan was a good singer. He couldn't find time to listen to Rajan's music, and he confessed that, therefore, I was destined to hear some of his spoiled recordings. My dear son, how sorrowful are the notes of those unheard songs you recited when you were alive. A similar reminiscence can be also seen in the childhood episodes of Rahman, where he recalls a vibrant picture of his childhood he enjoyed with the children from other ethnic minorities. but he was restricted from uttering his identity Rohingya to them. The word Rohingya is forbidden. We only use it among ourselves in the head. If we say that we are Rohingya, we could be signing the family's death warrant. Kathy Carruth, in her essay Recapitulating, she explains that a Japanese man who has missed the disaster occurred in Hiroshima, which wiped out his entire family, and he was elsewhere fighting in the war. Though he misses the traumatic event, he carries the impact of trauma as memory. Carruth concludes that understanding the traumatic history will require the art of listening beyond the words as a survivor would only provide unassimilated portions of the traumatic experience. So she says a truth that is essentially it is not available to its own speaker. The same is the women in these books are also needed to be studied. The women delineated in Habibur Rahman in his autobiography are also victims of traumatic events, and they also bears physical and psychological effects for years. Habib's grandma, his mother, and even his infant sister are all subjected to humiliation and traumatization. They represent an entire clan of Rohingya women whose everyday life becomes traumatic under the clutches of an abusive regime. Habib's grandmother, she is indeed a victim of post-traumatic stress disorder, the PTSD. And Roger Luckhurst, in his book, The Trauma Question, describes the symptoms of PTSD are recurrent dreams, flashbacks, or conditions. Then Habib remembers that her eyes, his grandma's eyes, cloud over and her gaze is fixed somewhere in the distance. Even before she opens the mouth, I know that the images in her head are back. The grandma's hallucinates between the peaceful life and the traumatic one. She escapes to the peaceful past narrated by her forefathers, and she finds a tranquility in the myths she has grasped from her ancestors. So there is a she used to go to and fro in her memories, in her traumatic memory and her past peaceful memory. The grandma's descriptions, her past descriptions holds a rich imaginary, and they are also mythical in nature. She also noted that there is a juxtaposition of the peaceful myth in her memory and the actual traumatic memory she has encountered. Being a victim of PTSD, she used to repeat the flashback. She used to repeat the stories, repeat the ancient stories to her grandchildren. And the author, Rahman, puts it that I am familiar with the history of Rohingya. He quotes it as a nightmarish saga my grandma quotes every evening. We can see that when studying Holocaust literature, critics have also come across the inexpressibility of the language. Then the grandma remembers the Rohingya genocide in 1942, and she said that the military they stormed in our homes, invaded the neighboring villages, and caught in the trap. The women experience a torture only they can know. They step into the water and drown themselves rather than fall into the repulsive criminal hands if this meant. This was in 1942. The 1942 event is also published in Tabi in an article published in 2013, and the documents the ethnic strife between Rohingyas and the Rakhine ethnic communities. He documents that almost 307 villages were destroyed. And the grandma, according to theories of the Feldman and Locke, the grandma tries to recover from the trauma by narrating them. She tries to narrate her trauma. And Feldman writes that it is through listening the event comes into existence. The listener is a blank screen on which the event comes to inscribed for the first time. The grandma's description also lacks elements of reliability. It is also because the survivor, as Carol puts it, the survivors skip important details, provide an altered version of incident, or simply forget the entire incident. It is because we get a slightly different story. It is because that the truth is also unavailable to its own speaker. Then grandma, just like Ichira warrior, grandma also lost her loved ones like her husband and father. Her husband in prison, and she does not know the real reason behind the death of her husband and father. It also deepens her trauma. And they took my father, they threw my husband in prison. God knows what they made them to enter before they died. Then the female traumatic memory is a very deep discipline, I would say. Then Jean Charcot, he identified his symptoms of hysteroepilepsy in his female patients. He realized that they exhibited convulsion, contortions, fainting, impairment of consciousness, and it may result from their personal experiences like illness, child abuse, domestic violence, bullying, or rape and death of their loved ones. Then being a Rohingya, Rahman's grandma has experienced all these traumatic experience, and in her declining years, she finds a solace by narrating them to her grandchild. Uh, then the grandma had to live. The trauma has occurred in a certain moment in her life, and she had to live out her existence in two different stages, in her traumatic past memory and her blissed present. The narrator Habib's mother is also a victim of persecution. She was forced to leave her family and was taken apart, and her disappearance. The reason behind her disappearance also remains a mystery throughout the autobiography. She could reunite her family with her family after some months, but she never opens about her mysterious days. And Habib remembers that my mother's smile fails to hide her tiredness and distress. She looks distraught, and her hair is messed, and there is a big red mark on her neck. Her trauma is intensified by her inability to spell out them. She could barely organize her memory. Freud says that trauma is a shocking break in the mind's experience of time. And then the same case can be seen in a similar one is also Rajan's father, as depicted in Ichira Warrior's book. Rajan's father, Radha, had a tragic end, aching about her son's death. Warrior admits that Radha had, even before Rajan's disappearance, Radha had a friend. She had hysteria even before Rajan's birth, but she was very close to her son. Both mother and son shared a very good bond. They were both fond of music and shared a deep bond together. So Vari couldn't disclose their son's disappearance to her, and used to tell lies to her whenever she inquires Rajan. And Vari remembers that day by day, lies began to disturb her deeply. She was skeptical on my words and furious towards everyone. Her recurrent inquiries about Rajan to his friends made them helpless, and they ceased to visit our home. Over the course of events, she broke down mentally, got hospitalized, and eventually died of pain, expecting Rajan's return till her last breath. In her article, Here Our Screams, published by the Human Rights Council, reports that the Rohingya Muslims were more. There were many, even 4,000 Rohingya Muslims Muslim women were killed and raped or arrested or taken to undisclosed places. Then Habib autobiography, his mom at a point, she in a broken voice says that they humiliated me. For some victims, they tries to remain happy after a narrow escaping from a fatal event. Maybe sometimes we may be also very happy if we escape something like an accident, but trauma victims react differently. They are not content with their heroic title of survivors. Those who undergo trauma is not only the moment of the event, but the passing out of it is traumatic. The survival itself can be a crisis. Uh, then an individual can only be and it takes place only when the patient is able to remember and wholeheartedly narrate the traumatic experience. This, along with the representation of and remembrance of the incidents through the narrative, Habib strives to survive his trauma as well. He was deported from Myanmar, and he could narrate the experience, so he could somehow survive the trauma, but Professor Varid couldn't survive his trauma. He narrates the incidents he had to go through during his old age. Unlike Habib, Varid's trauma lies in the knowledge that he couldn't get a reliable information regarding his son's disappearance and his custodial violence. He couldn't survive his trauma. He lacked someone who could empathize with him. In many instances, Vadir admits that even in my old days, even in my insentient, senescent days, I will be murmuring about Kakem camp. Author admits that he could only survive with his traumatic memory, and like Rajan's mother, he is also expecting a traumatic death. His final words deeply mark his aching memory. Why are you making my innocent child stand in rain even after his death? I don't close the door. Let the rain lash inside and drench me. Let at least my invisible son know that his father never shut the door. The study of trauma and memory is the study of humanity and history. We are coming to the conclusion. The word memory plays a significant role in the discipline of trauma studies. The documentation of memory leads to the production of trauma literature. The study of trauma then as a narrative of belated experience, far from telling of an escape from reality, the escape from death or from a calamity, rather attests itself an endless impact on a life. Memory, trauma, and history plays an significant role for trauma victims. The history of Burma may omit the chapters covered with the Rohingya bloodshed. Habib attempts to write a counter history against the mainstream history through his autobiography, and his history is the result of his traumatic memory he and his past generation have encountered. And Habibur Rahman tries to trace the memory of his own traumatic experience and the memory he has earned while listening to trauma survivors. Memory and history are interconnected to each other because in traumatic condition there was a past and there is a present too, and a memory works like a corpus of history by bringing past into the present. Through these autobiographies, the author tries to trace the memory of the traumatic experience and those heard from trauma survivors. And memory and history are linked because there is a presence of both past and present in them. And the Pierre-Jean he stresses on narrative memory and traumatic memory. The everyday life and experiences of an individual get stored in narrative memory, but in traumatic memory, which is produced by the traumatic events, is not able to fit itself in there. As memory lives in Holocaust survivors after years of event, trauma lives in the memory of Rohingya survivors and in the victims of internal emergency in India. And these autobiographies provides a faithful account of the trauma encounter from the victim's perspective. For grounding this autobiography, the book paper examines the means in which the ongoing terror, violence, and trauma are represented in human memory. The study of memory is the study of humanity and its history. Their history is a result of trauma, and these autobiographies are the construction of a meaningful history or laid by traumatic memory. Thank you.
Congratulations, Anjana
Thank you,
P.
sir.
Sabu, for this wonderful presentation in the Dan Thottakkara National Seminar 2022. Your paper is, of course, a very good one. and you have very effectively substantiated how people are just tormented by the traumatic memories. And here we have the memory of a child, as well
Thank
as
you,
the
sir.
memory of a father, and the very data of the horror of genocide is so alarming, especially the very genocide of the Rohingyan minority is so alarming, because in 2016 and 2017 alone, 700,000 of Rohingyans were forced to flee from their own country. And this particular title of Habib, just this particular autobiography of Habib is just representing, or just projecting the very pain of each and every Rohingyan who was shattered and battered by the very
Yes, sir.
powerful people. And your presentation is of course wonderful. Yeah, the very pain of a father, that is of course each warrior also. And every Keralite, or maybe I would say even every citizen of the world can connect him or her to both maybe the titles. So congratulations. Now that we are running running out of time, of course we have to go forward to the next paper. Anjana, once again congratulations and thank you. Now we will listen to Rincy Daniel. Rincy Daniel is presenting a paper which is titled The Episodic Memory, Juxtaposing and Story Narration in Film Muthon. Rincy, welcome to this Dan Thottakkara
Thank you,
National
sir.
Seminar 2022. You are visible, your sound is audible. We can start the presentation right now.
Thank you, sir. My screen is visible, right?
Yeah, it's visible. It's visible,
All right.
Rincy. It's visible.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, all. My name is Rincy Daniel, and I am from Christ Team to be University, Bangalore. I'm thrilled to be here, and thank you for this opportunity. Diving into my presentation, the title of my presentation, as you can see, The Episodic Memory, Juxtapositioning in Story Narration of the Film Muthon. A film by Geetu Mohandas is one of the best films of the year 2020, with Nivin Pauly, Sanjana Deepu, Shashank Arora, Roshan Matthew, just to name very few of their lifetime performances. Rajiv Ravi, with his indescribable camera work, we can look at this film through various lenses: gender identity, grief, space, and many other. For the purpose of this presentation, I would like to share my view on this film in terms of memory. Muthon is a film that dissects the concept of duality, which is the outcome of memory. I wish to deal with these episodic memories framed the man Akbar from Kamatipura. Episodic memory is one of the declarative memory. To explain what is declarative memory in very simple language, it is a long term memory that refers to facts, data, and events that can be recalled at your own will. Here, the episodic memory is the one of the two declarative memory that allows you to consciously remember the personal experiences and specific events of the past. It mentions of where the event took place, where it happened, what occurred during that event, and what were the emotions during that event. Coming back to the text, Muthon is a story of passion to find what once was lost. The story starts with the central character, Mullah. Mullah is ready to go into the storms to find Muthon, the elder one. As you can see on the screen, Mullah is in during, if you see in the first image, it is quite commendable how this little child has so much of vigor and fearlessness. The sheer desire of Mullah to find his Muthon. This is purely based on the memory of Muthon that tells him that only Muthon is the protector that he has. Mullah went to the box of the old photos, which gives him hope. This memory of Amina comes to his rescue in form of the mermaid when he hits the storms. If you look at the slide, you can also understand that how, after reaching a metropolis city, he arrives with nothing but the one piece of cloth that he has for with himself. He survived many storms, and he has one of the storm was the child molesters and the people who blackmailed and took him as bait. And it is almost immediately that he was sent to an orphanage, but here and there, the acts of random kindness, mostly that was not very much appreciated or it was kind of veiled, he ends up in Kamatipura under the watchful eyes of Rosie. Mullah is in search of Akbar. The film shows a very scabby surface in the beginning. The crammed chairs squeaked in the dark rooms. There are fewer outdoor shots. The audience is introduced to Akbar, who is a goon. He's an intense addict working with the underworld for his daily share dose of cocaine and drugs. He kidnaps Mullah, torments him mentally to know why Mullah has ran away from his hometown. To his shock, he understands that Mullah is his sister who has come searching for him. The audience here travels to the memory, back to Akbar's past. The defining feature of episodic memory is that it allows you to travel mentally back in time and it experiences all the events all over again. If you see here, in this memory that we have traveled across with Akbar in his past, Akbar is a changed man. He's physically much lean, active. He's a religious man who is renowned to perform sacred Kuttu Ratib, as you can see in the figure 2. He's close related to God, an empathetic man, the one who heals, that you can see in figure 3. Beneath the scabby surface of this film, there lies a tender romance that starts as projected in figure 1, where the audience is introduced to Amir, who has inability to speak. Akbar and Amir's tender romance is displayed very organically and it's not forced. Unlike the Akbar of Kamatipura, that's the Akbar whom we met in the very beginning, the Akbar of this island that you see on the screens right now, the Akbar of this island is a very happy man. He is displayed of more emotions. If you see the camera work, the camera is soaring and it's flying in the wider angles, capturing the beauty of the island. Remember how in this particular slide, you can see how Akbar and the scenes here is in the crammed dark spaces, and in here lies the camera work more open, more of wider angles, and the beauty of the island is displayed in much ferocious way. Why is this contrast of Akbar that you saw in the previous slides and this slide? Why is this contrast? It is the contrast of memory and the present. Episodic memory are created via the process of episodic learning, which relies on experiences alone. And this is a unique way of learning. For instance, one bad experience with swimming can make a man entirely fearful of the swimming all his life. Therefore, episodic memory, episodic learning corresponds to change in behavior due to certain memory. The image in here shows how Amir is forced to marry a girl and comes in the evening after his wedding to meet Akbar and tell him to run off together to Mumbai as displayed in the order on the screen. Akbar refuses and Amir has to leave. Later, Akbar comes back to tell Amir that he is ready to leave with him Mumbai, only to find that Amir has taken his life. These images, if you see, it's in a monochrome blue, which depicts gloominess, departure, and loss. This particular incident has changed Akbar's life forever. He lost his purpose and left the ways of God and humanity to enter into the world of immorality, addiction, and crime. He was once a gentle, God-fearing man who had innate ability to heal sick people. At present, Akbar is a gangster who is a drug addict and can go to any extent to make money. How Akbar's episodic memory from Island turned him into a criminal Mumbai gangster here. The film shows the answer lies in the love story between Akbar and Amir, which was one stop on as Amir took his life. This turned into the episodic memory that later Akbar is frozen at. And to redeem himself from the pain, he takes the help of the immoral world. He takes the help of drug, which turned his life in one of the web of Kamatipura. Akbar life lives in the world of memory. His memory from the island and his begotten love keeps him going. He is unable to make peace with the present world that he lives in, where he is a goon. This particular slide that you see is the last one. This slide is in perspective of the relationship between Mullah and Akbar. In the beginning, when I was watching and I saw Mullah being always worn wearing she's always dressed like a he, and we all are believing how appearances are. And when Mullah is also shown or depicted in the past, what you can see on the left, it's the moments that they share, the togetherness that Mullah as a baby and Akbar share. And after Akbar knows the truth, you can see that's the present, the images here. He finds back a reason to live. Who? Akbar. Episodic memories are important because they allow you to recall personal experiences that help you shape your life and your perception. I would like to end my presentation by giving this brilliant piece of visual text that has so much potential to be studied in various fields. This is the golden age of Malayalam films and our most important movement Indian cinema has witnessed. Thank you.
Congratulations, Rinsi. You have, of course, done a good job. While listening to you, I was just thinking about all the very psychoanalytic theories just propounded by Freud, Jung, and Lacan and all. And you have very effectively substantiated how maybe memory influence personality. Okay, somebody can be a good individual, somebody can be a bad individual, and all this is based on the very experiences, the very incidents, right? It could be, of course, sometimes good, sometimes bad, right? Often maybe negative, right? Such can maybe some kind of molestation, some kind of torture. Okay, all this will lead to maybe a very abnormal or extraordinary maybe psychic kind of personalities, right? Very good paper on the film Muton, and I'm sure maybe other students can of course go for more, right? It doesn't mean that you have done because maybe shortage of time and all, of course, but congratulations, Rinsi, once again. Very good. Now we
Thank
have
you.
it's already 8:55, right? So we have more presentations there. Congratulations once again, Rinsi. So let us continue the paper presentations in the Dan Thottakkara National Seminar 2022. Right now we have a paper by Sri Parvati. Sri Parvati is presenting a paper on the film again, right? It is titled Reading on Ayalum Nyanum Tamil. It is of course on the basis of memory narrative, right? Now I welcome Sri Parvati for her paper presentation. Sri Parvati, are you there? Hello, Parvati.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you are audible. Now you can start your presentation, Sri Parvati. Welcome to the Dan Thottakkara National Seminar 2022.
Okay, sir.
Any.
One second, Anjana,
No.
Anjana, your mic is
എന്നാ
turned
വേണ്ടേ
on.
ചിപ്സ് വേണോ
Anjana, your mic is turned on. Please turn it off.
ചിപ്സ് വേണോ
Anjana, I request Anjana to turn off the mic. Now, come on, Sri Parvati, you can start. Sorry for the interruption. Sri Parvati, you can start your presentation.
Good evening, all. I'm Sri Parvati J, second year postgraduate student from Devamada College,
Yes,
Kurunganadu.
sir. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm here to present my paper on reading of Alan Nyanan Tamil on the basis of memory narrative. Alan Nyanan Tamil is a 2012 Malayalam medical drama directed by Lal Jose and produced by Prem Prakash. And it stars Prithviraj Sukumaran, Pratap, uh, Pratap Potan, Naren, Samrata Sunil, Rema Kalangal, and Ramya Namishan. Uh, So before moving into the narrative, just talk about memory studies. Memory studies is the use of memory as a tool for remembering the past. And memory studies is a multidisciplinary field which combines intellectual strands from anthropology, education, literature, history, psychology, philosophy, and sociology, among others. As we know, film is a series of moving pictures, often that tells the story, which can move spectators to assume a particular emotional responses. It employs visual medium of communication and have a larger spectator than any other art form. And memory in
Parvati,
cinema
one
means
second. Parvati, your slide is just black here. I would request you to change the slide. In fact, nothing is visible. So you are of course sharing the slide, but there is nothing there. I cannot see anything. So I would request you to maybe change the slide so that
oh,
something is visible. I would say that, right? Anyway, no issue. You just I just told you that the screen is just dark, right? Okay. Please continue your presentation. No issue.
oh, okay, sir.
Just continue.
Oh, okay, okay. So moving on to the memory narrative in Alan and Tamil. So earlier I told that it is a 2012 Malayalam medical drama and directed by Lal Jose. And the movie, the story progresses through the medium of memory from the each characters of the movie. When the movie begins, first we see Dr. Ravitharan is the central character of the movie, and it is through the memories of the different characters, we are revealing the different life of Dr. Ravi Taragan, his college days, his love stories, and how a lazy student transformed into a committed doctor. And when first it is presented Ravi as a hardworking doctor attending an emergency case of a young girl who need immediate surgery, and her father refuses for the surgery, but seeing the girl's condition and the mother's distress, the Tarakan takes actions, but the girl dies on the operation table. As the girl's father is a politician, the unruly mobs attack the hospital. Dr. Tarakan left the hospital through the back door, but on his way, his vehicle skid and crashing on the oncoming vehicle. And next day, these events are reported by media, and Dr. Vivek is actually a friend of the protagonist, that is Dr. Ravi. They were classmates at the time of their college, and it is through the first we are taking back into the life of Dr. Ravi is through the character Vivek, and it is through his memory, his college days, his love stories, and how they attained the medical certificate or medical degree. All these things are revealed, and it is also through his memory that we came to know that Dr. Ravi is sent to a redemption hospital. It is run by Dr. Samuel, which was in Monar, and there various events takes place, and that shows that how he was transformed into a hardworking doctor. And later, the movie switches between past and the present. Uh, After remembering all these events, Vivek came back to the present moment. And on the basis of the news and the Ravi's disappearance, Vivek decided to private investigation and he met Dia, the personal secretary of the chairman of the board, and it is through her memory that the corruption and cheating towards the public is from the hospital faculty is also revealed, and the hospital used substandard medical equipment such as heart replacement valves and surgical instruments, as well as drugs that were past their expiring dates. And these things are also portrayed through the memory of the character Dia. And also, it is through her that we came to know of Dr. Taragan's stories, principles, and his fight to uphold the medical ethics. But the character Vivek and they are not composed the solving where Dr. Taragan is, and thus the character. Vivek is remembering another character in the movie, that is Dr. Supriya, who works with Taragan at the time of his wounding in Redemption Hospital. And Vivek and Diya contacted Supriya, but from there they made a conclusion that Dr. Ravi was there at Redemption Hospital, that Dr. Ravi had been it is through her memory that we came to know about some of the events in Ravi's life, as is educations, higher education, such things. And it is at the end it is revealed that Dr. Ravi went to Redemption Hospital by hearing the news of Dr. Samuel's death. Dr. Samuel inspired him a lot, and it is with his guidance that the transformation was taken place, and the movie switches between past and the present. And towards the end, the complication regarding the death of the child, which is happened at the beginning of the movie, is also revealed. Is also resolved by the statement of her mother, and the statement of the mother is also revealed through the memory. Actually, the movie used the memory as a medium to portray the life, not only the life of the central character, but also the several issues like the committed doctors. At the same time, uh, the cheating done from the part of some hospitals for their personal gain is also portrayed in this movie. Um, this is all I intended to present. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sri Parvati. Now, in fact, there is one more participant, and I think that is Sri Lakshmi, and Sri Lakshmi is absent anyway. Now, Sri Parvati, your presentation, I don't know whether it is because we are a bit late beyond the time that is of 9 o'clock. That okay, maybe it should have been more energetic. Anyway, no issue. Okay, you have presented the paper very well. You have substantiated the fact that this film Malayalam Nyanam Tamil is a good example for memory narrative. I think Sri Lakshmi is absent, and in that case, we'll just come to the conclusion of the national seminar, the Dan Thottakkara National Seminar. It's already 9:05 right now. Anyway, I would request you to just maybe go for 5 to 10 minutes discussion. You can just go for a discussion right now, and I would request you to maybe in the discussion, of course, you can turn on the camera. If any of you wish to ask some questions to the participants, you can ask the question. Otherwise, of course, we'll just wind up anyway. I wish to tell you the fact that all of you have presented the papers very successfully, and you are just going to get your certificates very soon. If you haven't given your address, please just email the address. Right now, let us have a discussion. If at all anybody wants to ask something, you can ask it right now. Welcome to the discussion. Nobody wants to ask anything. Sri Parvati, Anjana, Rinsi, Sharath, Nilofer, Roshni, and Aishwarya. Okay, do you have any questions? You want to say something? Please respond. I remember those days of online teaching in which students do not respond, right? Anyway, I think you don't have any questions or other, you don't want any discussion. I would say I'm so happy. It was, of course, a very fruitful paper presentation, national paper presentation. Congratulations once again to each of you, and thanks a lot for your presentation, your participation in this national seminar. Right now, once again, I express my sincere gratitude to the very principal, the head of the department, and the faculty of the Department of English of Sacred Heart College, Thevara. Congratulations and thanks to each of the participants. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful time. Wish you all the best in your life, your professional life, academic life, everywhere. God bless you all. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.